Welcome back, Billiken fans. Sorry we've been away for a week. We're back with the Midtown Madness podcast with Peter Hale and Zach Miller. We've got a lot to talk about today because we've been off. Hopefully, as we draw closer to the season, the basketball season, we're going to be better at getting these out once a week. But you're going to notice something a little bit different. If you're watching on YouTube, you already seen the big change in the podcast. Peter has got himself a microphone and a pair of Joe Rogan headphones. It's worth going to check out the headphones on Peter. It's just funny. But no, they look great. He sounds so much better. Pete, how's it going, man? How was your you went on a little vacation. How'd it go?
Yeah, I got up to Vermont for a weekend. It was nice. It's the first time I've flown in like 2 years. So good to get away and get a little peace and quiet away from the kids for a weekend.
Oh yeah. I haven't been to Vermont yet, but I do love the upper East Coast area. It's one of my favorite spots. I'm a big Maryland guy.
Yeah, little too rainy, but overall a nice weekend. But tell us about your weekend. I think you had a little bit nicer weather where you were.
Up until Sunday, down in Pensacola, we had great weather, and then Sunday, apparently the monsoon from Jumanji hit. So yeah, it was fun though. Got a little exercising in, contrary to the Kenny Powers mantra. So it was fun. But I made it back and ready to talk Billiken athletics. Let's kick off immediately with maybe the biggest basketball news I think we got recently. And I may be going out of order because I think this one's actually big time is John Rothstein announced that the Billikens will be in a nice looking multi-team event next season.
Yeah, so this one is at it's at the Mohegan Sun, which is in Connecticut. I think a little bit closer to the Rhode Island side than the New York side, and it's a pretty nice field from what they've announced so far. The Billikens are in the top four with Providence and Miami. And help me out, who's the fourth?
Providence, Miami, and gosh, I messed that one up good.
I should.
Yeah, we didn't even have it in the notes. That's how like scatterbrain we've been the last couple days leading.
It's a little fresh. It's been a long weekend, and I was just putting kids down to sleep. But
and you're also recovering from what was an awful men's national team game as well too, I'm sure.
Oh God, yeah.
It's the Hall of Fame tip-off, and
Maryland
will be Maryland.
Yeah,
so of course it's Maryland, the state I literally just called out as being one of my favorite places.
No reason that would jump to mind.
Yeah, I'm excited about this tournament. I mean, it's up on the East Coast. We just talked about the East Coast, and I mean it sounds fun. I mean, Maryland, Providence. I love a good multi-team event. I think this could be a fun opportunity for Billiken fans to get out on the road, so to speak, and see the team in a different atmosphere.
Yeah, and they say we'll headline it, so I'm sure that means there will probably be a bottom half to this. Whether that means there will be a consolation bracket or they'll play maybe a couple home games. I need to look at the format of it, but bottom line is Maryland, Providence, Miami are the other teams headlining with us. For Providence, it's a borderline home game. I think their campus is probably not even an hour away from this place. But otherwise, it's a really nice event.
Yeah, that's well, let's talk about what's more exciting in the immediate. Full practices are officially underway, and I know I can in private get a little wary of how much social media the Billiken athletics accounts do. I think sometimes they'll overdo it. I think maybe leading up to the NCAA tournament, I mean, I get the excitement, but leading up to the women's soccer NCAA tournament, they may have overloaded a little bit. But I think Billiken fans are really enjoying the amount of videos that are coming out of practice.
Yeah, there's been a ton. Lots of good stuff, lots of good highlights. Really liked the Francis Okoro dunking on TJ Hargrove and him taking it very graciously.
Yeah, on
That
his
was
head,
fun.
I think on his
Yeah,
head, as the kids say today.
that's right. Yeah, no, but he's Hargrove took it in stride, and I'm sure he'll get him back.
Yeah, so you were team Okoro poster and not Nesbitt alley-oop.
The Nesbitt alley-oop was pretty great. I mean, yeah, nothing wrong with that one. Love Yuri kind of doing that off the weak side, from his left hand, just kind of lobbing it up there. I think we're going to see a lot of that this season. There was also one a couple days before that, a Nesbitt, where they put it up block or goaltend. He got way up to stop a shot from going in. I was on the goaltend side of the equation, but I said it was completely worth it. So, that was a fun one.
Yeah, they've been trying to channel their inner that Twitter account that I can't think of, that I thought was fun for a minute and then like just got overdone. The former basketball player.
Yeah, Rex Chapman, the
Yeah,
blocker
Rex
charge.
Chapman,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there seems like they're trying to channel and hey, I love pop culture references and stuff like that. So I think that's the right direction to go to. It just happens to be that Rex Chapman is not my favorite follow on Twitter. It is what it is.
He's a lot.
Yeah. So you mentioned Yuri Collins. He's been getting a little bit of shine from the local media. Apparently he was born with 6 fingers and his mom was born with 7.
This is something that I had I remember reading when I think he was in high school or something like that. I don't know if it was like when I was digging up recruiting stuff, or maybe there was an article when he was going on that run with St. Mary's in the playoffs as a senior. So that was one of those things that I kind of remember reading and then put in the back of my mind and completely forgot about until this article came out. Polydactyly, am I saying that right?
Did I go to SWU med school? Does it look like I spent a lot of time on the med campus, Pete?
Yeah, we didn't cover that in the marketing department either, but yeah, nevertheless, it was a nice little article about that kind of unusual genetic condition that runs in his family, and apparently makes you an awesome point guard even when you get rid of that 6th finger.
It's so funny that the first thing that comes to mind when I think of having 6 fingers on one hand is going back to when I was a kid watching America's Most Wanted, and they talked about some drug dealer that had like 6 fingers on his hand and he could count money real fast. Like, that's amazing how our brains work, that I pulled that out of the recesses of my mind. That was the first. I was like, oh yeah, that time on America's Most Wanted, as if that has any relation. That's totally apropos of nothing involving the Billikens.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that was not the reference point in this article. I think,
but yeah, I just don't. I cannot believe this article, like how this stuff comes about. Like, do they put out primers on weird stuff about players, and then like Hochman's like, oh, that looks interesting.
It makes me wonder either if he was talking to him and then it was like, wait, what? Like it's one of those little details that's like, no, this is the actual story. Or if somebody else was like, like, hey, you got to talk to him about this. This is super, interesting. So, however it happened, Collins, it doesn't seem like one of those things he would probably bring up himself. I bet somebody probably tipped him on it.
Yeah, they mentioned that he has like the little like bump on his hand. And I wonder if like you catch it shaking his hand, that it's like when you shake somebody's hand and they give you like the fraternity handshake,
right?
By accident, and you're like, whoa, you like, okay, what was that? And then you walk away and you're like, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, no, it's just, I wonder if it throws you off guard if you happen to notice it.
Yeah, don't know. I don't have any experience with it, but it's pretty cool. And, he seems like a good sport about it. He and his mom do.
Yeah, we mentioned full practices are underway just before we talked about Yuri Collins. There was no Midnight Madness, which I think Billiken fans were upset about. I think I talked to some people and their reaction was kind of like, well, if we can't put together a Midnight Madness, how are we going to, allow people in the building? And and there have been some updates on, the volleyball team stopped wearing masks during games, like during play, which I'm excited for, just regardless of anything that it represents, more so that they're on the court without masks and they're able to play without any sort of hindrance, how minor it might be. But there's no Midnight Madness. There will be an open practice this Friday, 10:15 from 4 to 6 p.m. This is very exciting after seeing all these videos not leaking, but being released from practice.
Yeah, this is great. And they one note I just want to make sure everybody's aware of, they do want you to make reservations.
Mm-hmm.
So find that on social media and hit the link and make a reservation if you are going. But yeah, this is a great opportunity to go see them now. They really seem to have a lot of energy around the start of practice this season. They've really put out some good stuff on social media. I just see so much positivity from the players. And one thing that I've noticed is how much, the blue team, gray team seem to be mixing up. They're trying a lot of different sets, a lot of different looks. And this being the first year after a long, period where our team's identity was so centered around Goodwin and French, this is a good opportunity for fans to get out there and kind of see some new looks, see what maybe this team is going to try when they're not built around those two guys in particular. So it's a really interesting transitional year for us.
Yeah. And I often edit these at night, late at night, and I often forget to include things in the descriptions that I really should include. And I will for sure remember to put the link in the description to make your reservation to attend the practice. They will have complimentary popcorn and soda. So that's exciting as well, outside of, getting to see this team. Pete, I wonder if they will stream this on YouTube. And if so, what are you going to watch for if you get a chance? What are you most interested to see in this practice scrimmage, if you can get a chance to watch?
Yeah, I haven't seen officially whether they're going to do that or not, but yeah, if I'm looking at this practice, I really want to see what do their sets look like. We know Yuri is the starting one, but beyond that, what do their guard lineups look like, and how is that going to be? How are they playing now that they have two basically traditional fives as their big men with Okoro and Linson, and then kind of everybody else? It's not a conventional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lineup that we're going to see basically ever. So what do their offensive sets look like that they're running? Is really what I'm looking for. What about you? Anything in particular?
I'm always intrigued to see who the dark horse is that may make an impact.
Yeah.
Linson was kind of a dark horse last year, in that you didn't know what he was going to bring. He came with some pedigree from his prior stop, and I'm interested to see the newest big, whose name is escaping me, and of course I don't have the roster in front of me.
Yeah, Traore.
Yeah, Traore. I'm very interested to see where he's at right now, because we're an injury away. I'm a, rain cloud over top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always, hope for the best, expect the worst. So I'm interested to see where he's at, and what he could bring in case of emergency. I want to see the shooters. I want to see how
Yeah.
Jimerson is returning. They're not, coming back, and how he has worked in the off season. The transfers especially as well. But I'm definitely excited to see Okoro in person.
Yeah, for sure. Traore is, when he came in, I think what we all kind of said was this is a long-term play. I think he's a little bit older coming in from prep school and everything, and then there's like another extra year in there, so he is old for a freshman by a year or two. But I still think he's probably a ways off from seeing serious minutes. That said, Ford did say, we have like 8 to 10 guys who are going to play, potentially double-digit minutes. So I think he wants to play a lot. I think he wants to go a little deeper in the lineup than he basically ever has, is how he's speaking anyway. I don't know if things will play out like that. But it seems like he's got a few guys who are going to play your 32 minutes a game, and then everybody else is going to kind of rotate. So I think he really wants to play with that depth, but I think there are a couple guys who are still a little outside of that top, 11 or 12 or whatever the number is that Ford is using there. And I think Traore is probably one of those guys. That said, he's going up against two really experienced and seasoned and skilled big men. So that should help his development along pretty quickly.
Yeah. So don't forget the link in the description on YouTube and in on the podcasting platforms. I'll drop it in. Make your reservation. It's early on a Friday. It's kind of tough. I know, 4 to 6 p.m., 10:15. Get out and see these guys in person. And I'm assuming there will be the women's basketball team may be involved. I don't know. It's possible. I think I would put it 50-50 to steal a Billikens.com trope.
Yeah, they might be there, but I would expect them to probably have their own event as well.
Yeah, no, that, as I was getting the words out, I was like, that's really dumb. Why would I say that?
You never know.
Focusing on alumni, Jordan Goodwin is doing some work in the preseason. He had his first 2 games while we were away. His first game was on the 5th of October, and he played really, really well in the Wizards lost to Houston.
Yeah, he did. He in just 9 minutes, he was 4 for 7 from the field, and 2 of those misses. Oh, actually, so one of them was like a beyond half court heave that didn't go in. Another one he actually did airball, but all 3 of the misses were from 3. He made everything from inside the arc. I think it was 1 for 4 from 3. But yeah, got an offensive board, a couple of fouls, a turnover. It's a nice Jordan Goodwin stat line. He just fills out the whole thing in a relatively short amount of time. They did lose the game. Preseason wins and losses aren't super important. But yeah, he had a nice game. Did you happen to catch his highlights?
Yeah, I caught the highlights. I really liked that offensive board and put back, as well as the slip pass he had.
Yeah.
The 3 ball and the step back 2 or whatever. I think that if he's going to make this Wizards team, it's going to be on hustle and passing.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I don't know if you see it a different way, but
no, that's it. He's one of these guys who he's going to require a lot of looks, from whatever team is considering keeping him around. And luckily he's getting that opportunity with the Wizards, but he's one of those guys who's just going to have to grow on you. You know what I mean? He's not, there are plenty of guys who come into the NBA and they're so big and they're so skilled and they're undeniable, but Goodwin is one of those guys who's going to have to win you over with the hustle for sure.
Yeah. I'd love to see, like, down the line, Jordan Goodwin being like 31 and, coming into like a 2-year prime, you know what I mean? Late 20s, 2-year prime, get paid a little bit later, and then maybe head over to Europe to finish out his career. I'd love to see him stick around in the G League because I think he's got a future in American pro basketball. But I just think he's going to have to. It's going to be as a savvy veteran in my mind.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're right. It's going to be over the long term as well as the short term. The more you see him, the more you like him. So hopefully he catches on for sure.
Did you catch the game last night? I completely spaced on it.
No, I didn't catch it, but he played 5 minutes in this one. They went pretty deep in the bench. I think he was one of like 6 guys who got single digit minutes. And in 5 minutes, he was 2 for 4 for 4 points and chipped in a rebound. Once again, he did have 2 fouls. So he is making the most of his limited minutes in terms of getting in the box score. But I didn't actually see this one either.
Yeah, if you're playing along at home, Goodwin did have 4 points. Obadiah Toppin, who you may know, only had 13.
Never heard of
So,
him.
yeah, he only had 13. So I mean, a third of but yeah, not a bad night for number 7, Jay Good. He pitched in a rebound. So and it was a 117-99 loss to the New York Knickerbockers. I don't know why I use that antiquated term. I don't know. I was feeling
It's all right. It's their real name.
I know. I love it. I love it. I wish they'd kind of go back to it, like as like a throwback. Coming up next, actually, you will get to see him. We may be doing double duty on this one. Tuesday night, 10-12, NBA TV. They're playing the Raptors. And then on 10-15, they will play at New York. Kind of interesting how the preseason schedule is for the Wizards, because they play the Knicks, play the Raptors, play the Knicks, play the Raptors. I'm guessing they're doing just kind of like a 14. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess they just keep it regional. I mean, it's not like they're going to play the whole league in the preseason. You're getting a dozen or so games, or maybe even less, and so they probably don't want to, especially right now under whatever restrictions there might be. They don't want to travel too much.
Right. Hopefully he makes the team, and we get a chance to see him nearest to wherever you are listening. The current players on the team, there are a couple players that are getting preseason attention. And we talked about Collins and the article from Ben Hochman. He got some shine from the March Madness Twitter account. Collins was listed as top 9 returning playmakers, and he was at number 6, if I'm correct.
Yes.
That's big time. I mean,
yeah. This account, it's like the official March Madness Twitter account, and it seems like they do one of these lists every day. It might be a top 10 or a top 12 or top 8 or whatever. But yeah, they did top 9 returning playmakers, and it's all of D1. So you're not necessarily seeing just a bunch of power conference teams up there, but you'll see guys from any of the 357 D1 schools. But Collins was number 6 on there. And then they did top 10 returning 3-point shooters, and Rashad Williams was number 6 on that list. So back-to-back days, we got a little love from the official March Madness account, which was cool to see.
Yeah, this is it's interesting because you've got Oakland, Prairie View A&M, Southern Methodist, Kentucky, North Carolina A&T, St. Louis, Nevada, Louisville, and Arizona State. So quite a smattering of programs listed.
Yeah, they tend to be guys who are filling up certain stat categories.
It's based solely on assist,
right? Rating. So, and when you go through all of D1, you'll see, I mean, it doesn't correlate at all to the success of the school or the size of the program or anything, where the top scorers or rebounders or assist getters are coming from. So so they kind of go top to bottom in D1, and Collins happens to be not only one of the top assist men, but his assist to turnover ratio for his volume is pretty incredible. And then Williams led D1 in 3-point attempts the last 2 seasons. So they're going to put a gunner like him on there for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be a great segue. As you kind of teased, Rashad Williams, number 6 in 3-point shooting last year. So he's in the top 10. And then I forgot that Kellen Grady was at Kentucky until I read the replies to the tweet about the graphic, because everybody's loving to hate on these graphics because they all got somebody that they think is better off. But Rashad Williams at number 6. Speaking of Rashad Williams, we've kind of got a pseudo waiver update on Rashad Williams. Apparently this is not as cut and dry as many may have thought. Actually, we kind of thought it wasn't cut and dry, but it's a bit more complicated, even further.
It's never, yeah, it's never been a sure thing, given that he's a two-time transfer. But the way that they've been giving out waivers in the wake of COVID, we kind of expected these more or less to be rubber stamped. And the fact that his hasn't happened by now, I think kind of speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I really don't know why, but I know that it's not gonna be an open and shut case of whether he's I really don't know. I've kind of just gotten an idea that it may not happen.
Yeah, we don't have any hard details about where it stands or why it's taking so long. SLU does have him listed as a junior on the roster. I think the expectation is, even though he's played 3 seasons at 2 different schools, that he would play 2 here using his COVID bonus year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if the holdup is related to that. I truly don't know, like whether they think he's only got 1 year left, which he would under normal circumstances. But hopefully we get some closure on that sooner than later, because the season's only a few weeks away.
Yeah, it's just not as simple as filling out your driver's license renewal.
Yeah, and he would be able to play in the exhibition game. So if you guys do see him, on the 26th and 31st against Rockhurst in Lindenwood, it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see him on November 9th against Central Arkansas.
Yeah, so keep that in mind as we draw near to the exhibitions. Recruiting news, not too much has been out there, but I think the offer we knew was coming any day. Zyree Collins. I love Z names. Clearly, St. Mary's High School, Brad Beal Elite AAU. And oh, by the way, he's Yuri Collins' brother. No word as to whether or not he has 8 fingers.
A point guard from St. Mary's and Brad Beal Elite with the last name Collins, and first name that's from late in the alphabet. So this kid's a point guard. Yeah, he's a pretty exciting prospect. Now I say that he's a freshman. He's about to start his freshman year. There's a long time before we'll ever see him in college, but everything you see of him so far is that he's a really dynamic player. He seems to really have Yuri's feel for the game. When in the limited video I've been able to watch on him, he's one of these kids who can kind of change speeds. He's a good passer. Seems to have a good sense of the court and good vision and everything. Can find his teammates. One thing that stood out to me was he looks like he's got a pretty deep shot. Like he's an actually pretty serious shooter already. And he likes to take it in against bigger guys and score in the lane too. So he seems like maybe a little more of a scorer, whereas Yuri's a little more of a pure pass first point guard. So really excited to see the evolution of his game as he draws nearer to being in college.
Yeah, I mean, if you recall our talk with Kevin Lish, that it really does help to have an older sibling in the driveway to continue to push you to get better and kind of knock you down a peg when you get too high and it's that built-in adversity that makes you a much better player than maybe Yuri had as coming up being the older brother.
100%. Yeah, younger siblings play with that chip on their shoulder.
We have another offer out there. Aaron Rowe, he's a point guard out of Father Tolton High School in Columbia, Missouri. Mocan Elite AAU. Sean West says he's a star. Now, can you tell me a little bit, first of all, about who Sean West is and why we should be listening to him?
Yeah, Sean West, he's a young guy actually, but he's really connected in the in-state basketball scene. He does a lot of video editing. So you'll see highlight videos, even some like commitment announcement videos that Sean West has put together. He's also involved with the Michael Porter Jr. Elite AAU program. So he's one of these dudes who's always in the gym, helping coach AAU, putting videos together. He knows every player in state basically. I believe he is Central Missouri based, Columbia based. So he really knows this kid in particular, Aaron Rowe. He's a big time athlete. According to Sean, he's got a really strong work ethic. And, everything I've seen is he's the top recruit in Missouri in that class, in the freshman class. The same day SLU offered, Tennessee offered, which you don't see for freshmen who haven't played a high school game yet very often. So I think this kid has, Kansas and Mizzou and some other schools sniffing around as well already. So
Never heard of him.
Yeah, this is a name to keep an eye on, and it's big for SLU to be involved this early, on a kid who's not in St. Louis necessarily. So really savvy of us to get involved there.
Any more men's basketball news before we head into women's basketball? Anything that you may have forgotten to throw in that came to mind in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
No, I think for men's basketball, that's it. Just I know I've been promising it for a while, but thanks for your patience. I've just had a ton of projects at work, and I'm finally starting to clear up. So this month I will really start catching up on the recruiting stuff, and we will have just tons and tons of information for you. So follow us on Twitter and here, obviously, and we'll as the season is starting up, we'll have some more basketball recruiting stuff to go over with you.
Women's basketball, we have some news. 3 games will be nationally televised on CBS Sports Network. One January 9th versus VCU, January 16th at UD, and January 30th at Chaffetz Arena against Richmond. I love seeing this team get on national TV. They always seem to play well on national TV. Lisa Stone always has them ready for prime time, so to speak. Thoughts on those 3 games being picked up by CBS Sports?
Yeah, I like this, especially the one at Dayton. Dayton's been the team that they can't seem to get past in this conference. I know that both teams got bounced earlier than they expected in the last conference tournament, but I know Dayton's been a tough one for them. So to go there and then have that game get a little more publicity is great. So that's the one that really jumps out at me. And then it's cool to have 2 of the 3 at home.
Yeah, I think people overlook VCU when we get into talk about women's basketball. VCU really does put together some tough teams. They kind of still piggyback off of that Shaka Smart style. And now, the coaches that have followed, but both good teams. Richmond, I'm not really too plugged in on how they look this year, but those Dayton and VCU games are going to be real tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Recruiting news, commitments galore for Lisa Stone and company. Mia and we had a fun text exchange. I pulled up the Twitter. I think I shared the tweet with you. The second recruit and I was like, man, I'm getting old. Like they look so like, it's incredible how young these like high school kids look. Like, I mean, I remember being that age and looking up at people that were 21 and thinking they were ancient, but like looking down is just even more jarring.
Yeah, well, they, like I told you, they really are young. I mean,
Yeah. What was it? I was able to drink already when.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, right. By the time they were, I think you said, "Oh man, she looks like she's 10 years old" or something like that.
Oh yeah. By the time
yeah, we were already old enough to drink when she was. So
yeah.
I mean, they're definitely young, but no, and we'll bring her up first. Actually, Macy Donarski, she's a junior, 2023 point guard from La Crosse, Wisconsin, Aquinas High School, and plays AAU for Wisconsin Flight Elite. So this is actually a really nice get early on.
Yeah, I like the offers.
Yeah, she's got a great offer list for somebody who's about to start her junior year. And then, a scouting service in Wisconsin, Diener Ivers girls basketball. And I'm sure that's related to the Diener family.
I would imagine so.
They call her a stud, and it all comes down to fundamentals with her: sound pivoting, ball fakes, finishing footwork, ability to pull off the break, step back, and pull for a rise jumper. She's got instincts, intellect, and the ability to survey the floor. High major. If we're
Wow.
getting a player that they're calling a high major early, I think that's pretty big time for this program. Keeping in mind that SLU has never made a women's tournament, and if the recruiting is taking a step up that way, it sounds like we scooped her up before like a Wisconsin or a Marquette or maybe another Big Ten school could get involved here. She's a winner. Her high school team has been 47-2 since she's played there. Two back-to-back state finals. The first year was canceled for COVID, very suddenly. Second year they did lose in the state final. But she's a baller. She's only 5'8", but look out for her. I think Stone sees her as kind of the point guard of the future.
Yeah, pull up off the break, step back, rise for a J. Like, who does that sound like to you?
Well, you're
On the
putting me on.
women's side, on the women's side.
Yeah, so
I mean, it sounds like Kaija to me.
I think it does sound like there's a lot of her in there. And if this is the one who's going to kind of take the reins from her when she's done, that's good for me. If we have another Kaija in the pipeline.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who was on a couple of these recruits, because obviously when you pull in a potential high major recruit out of Wisconsin, you immediately got to point the finger right at Lisa Stone for doing the legwork,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and she didn't have offers from Wisconsin or Marquette yet, but she did have Davidson, Providence, UNLV, Drake, Evansville, Green Bay, a few others, from the Big Sky and from the Summit. So she has the kind of offer list going into junior year that she's probably about to take a leap. Somebody who averages 20 a game and 7 assists a game, not to mention 4 rebounds, 4 steals. Just to do that at as a 5'8" sophomore. I think she's probably ready to take the leap in terms of her recruiting. So this is a really fortunate get when we got it.
And then it looks like we got a local recruit, Mia Nicastro, a 2022 guard forward out of St. Charles West High School.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about her or St. Charles West necessarily as a girls program, but Earl seems to like this one. I know he always likes when we get the local kids. I actually found a scouting report from somebody based in California who I guess saw her play some AAU ball. She plays for Missouri Phenom, which is actually on the Nike EYBL, which is I don't think they have a boys equivalent program, but yeah, the other offers she had: Kansas, Tulsa, Bradley, Penn, Stephen F. Austin, North Dakota State, Colgate. But anyway, the scouting report I found on her from James Parker, he says she's a versatile, skilled wing with size. She's awesome in space off the dribble. She's able to make plays, create mismatches based on her size and skill. Shoots consistently from range, handles the ball like a guard, can work off the ball and take advantage of her size in the paint. She competes on the boards. She's long, good athlete, and can create her own shot. So this is a big time commitment for SLU. It sounds like she's a really versatile player. Gives us a little bit of an inside out threat, and that's the kind of player I don't think we've seen a whole lot of on Stone's teams.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this one. I'm always a little wary when it comes to local recruits, especially not on them, especially in women's basketball, women's volleyball, because you don't get a lot of these great in-depth scouting reports, and you wonder if maybe it was, I don't even want to insult Mia Nicastro, but you wonder, how much of it is just being local. But if you're playing at home, St. Charles West is where Kramer Soderberg attended high school. So That's all I got for you.
I know you do. I figured you knew the St. Charles schools a little bit there. I think she actually did make, all Metro team, and she made all state team at whatever division St. Charles West is, which I'm assuming is the
Big
biggest one.
schools. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
St. Charles High School, not so much.
okay. So she is getting those kind of Metro and state honors, and hopefully puts together a big senior year. And now that, SLU fans are paying attention, hopefully we kind of get a better idea of where she's at.
And now we've got the third commitment out of nowhere in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't even know on the staff who would be in this area, but Ashley Connor out of Mount Lebanon High School, a 2022 guard out of Pittsburgh, PA.
Yeah, so this is one from about 6 weeks ago that we did tweet about when we saw it, but didn't go over it here, and just kind of the fact that we're shouting out a couple other commitments that came in on the same day this week. Might as well circle back. Ashley Connor, like you said, a guard out of the Pittsburgh area, which is unusual because especially on the men's side, we haven't recruited that area at all. But she did have offers from Xavier, LaSalle, Evansville. Some Horizon and schools of that kind of level. Another scouting report I found on her, she's a high IQ player that plays with patience and control, not afraid to get down and defend your best player. So she's another one who's going to be a senior this year. So she'll come in the same class as Miana Castro, and we'll see her on campus a year from now. I just wanted to make sure she got a little bit of credit where credit is due.
And LaSalle tends to be a team that hovers around the top three, never really breaking through on the women's side, but they do put good teams on the floor, and Xavier is Xavier. So if they were involved, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, and she also she had visited Miami like the week before she committed to SLU, so I thought that kind of stood out too.
Must have rained.
Yeah, exactly.
Women's basketball, exciting news, and hopefully they can put together a season. Again, we talk, I don't think people truly understand or get that I'm not being an ass when I say that all I care about in conference is whether or not we beat Dayton or VCU. That's literally what the women's sports in this conference are all about. You win every other game, and VCU and Dayton are your tests.
Yeah, it does. It's like that in at least 3 or 4 other sports.
Volleyball, women's basketball.
It's true in soccer.
Women's soccer.
Yeah.
So again, guys, not being a jerk, not being rude. I'm just telling you how it is.
Those are just the best other programs, period.
Yes. So when I tell you I'm not impressed by a win at Duquesne, I'm not impressed by a win at Duquesne. Men's soccer, speaking of impressed, what a run this team has been on, making noise across the country, really getting the national spotlight. Recently, not on September 28th, a 1-0 win at Kansas City. They're currently I should have mentioned this before, but they are currently ranked 14th in the nation in the coaches poll. But they went to Kansas City, a rare trip to KC to play the Roos. Betcher scores in the 47th minute on an assist by, say it with me, Pete, John Klein. Yes. Yeah. Give and go. You had Laurel and Hardy, Jordan Goodwin, Hassan French, Kevin Lish, Tommy Liddell, Cassidy and Conklin. You have Betcher and Klein, man. I wish I could reach back into the annals of Billiken soccer and talk about other great duos. Attacking duos, you had Cristo and Adnan, but both of them were more or less scorers. You had Sweeten, and I guess you could throw in Adnan or Cristo with him, but Good Lord.
Yeah. I mentioned one earlier today when we were texting back and forth, Dipsy Selawane,
Yeah.
off of Brad Davis.
Oh gosh.
He had a really world-class player setting him up. So that's a duo that scored a lot in my freshman year.
All right, I figured it out. It's Alex Sweeten and Mike Robeson in the midfield.
There you go.
Roby at the holding and Sweets in the attacking.
Yeah.
This was domination from start to finish. I mean, a 1-0 scoreline may not look it, but 21-3 on shots, 11-0 shots on goal. Yeah, Patrick Schulte was like Julie the Cat Gaffney and Mighty Ducks 3. You know, someone take a shot on me. I'm so yeah, that's a deep cut reference. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you don't give up a shot on goal, you can't get scored on, right? Well,
I mean,
own goal,
teams have found a way. Yeah.
Yes, they have. Talk about 94 Columbia.
Yeah, exactly. But the chemistry that these two, Klein and Betcher, have developed is pretty incredible. And it seems like pretty much every game, the two of them are connecting for a goal. So that's a great thing to see. The other thing I want to say just in this one is, yeah, SLU did dominate this one on paper. And you look at Kansas City and their record, and they play in a lower conference and had a losing record, but they had played a brutal schedule, basically all on the road. I think they technically did have a couple of neutral games, but they were playing like 3 ranked teams in a row. They're better than their record. And I think they played a little bit better than the box score indicates here. SLU just happened to have a lot more shots in the box score. So I don't want to like pretend that they were just some cupcake that we dominated or something like that. They were a good team to play, worthy competition for sure.
The Exorcism, the movie, took place in St. Louis, right? With a St. Louis priest, a SLU priest.
That's always what I was told at SLU. Yeah.
Well, we had the sequel to the Exorcism. The Billikens took on Fordham at SLU on October 2nd and came away with a 2-0 win. Exorcising the Demons were the A10 championship game, in which Patrick Schulte would definitely like to have back, and I think he got his manhood, so to speak, as Coach Klein would say in Waterboy. Came back with a shutout in this one, and tell us who scored the first goal and who assisted on it.
Yeah, I'm going to ask our audience to sit down because you're going to be shocked to learn that in the 22nd minute, Betcher scored off a Klein assist. And this one was actually really cool. I love this goal. It was a give and go. They were kind of in traffic, and with about every touch, it kind of looked like it might be broken up, but they just kind of found a way to keep it going. They just had unbelievable footwork and timing. Betcher with a nifty little pass over to Klein as he was kind of being held from behind, and ref let him play through. Thankfully, Klein got it back to Betcher, who kind of skipped it across, took a few dribbles across the goal box, and actually beat the goalie off the dribble, so that by the time he actually shot the ball, he had a wide open net. It was pretty great. And then I think the best part was his celebration, which I know you loved.
Yeah, he did an air guitar on the corner flag that would make Bill and Ted jealous.
Yeah, it was rad.
I'm just gonna keep going with the movie references. I'm on a roll here right now, so bear with me, listeners, if you haven't already turned it off and discussed. In the 36th minute, 31st minute. Mujib Marana gets a goal off, an assist by John Klein. Header on the far right, off a Klein free kick from, it was way out, man.
Yeah, it really was. But he put a lot of power into that and finished it with everything he had. So that was pretty impressive, especially from where the free kick came from too. Yeah. I mean, it was closer to the half line than to the box. So, Marana saw it all the way and finished nicely.
This is another game where SLU really did control the game from start to finish. 18-8 on shots, 12-1 shots on goal. So you obviously really can't lose if you give up less shots on goal than you have goals. The corners were 9-2, and you know, we're gonna come back to corners because it's important to talk about, especially going into their last game we're covering with VCU, and we'll get into it. But yeah, another great game from the Billikens, exercising those demons that were the A10 championship. On October 6th, they took on St. Joe's, a 3-2 win. This one got a little nervy at times, I think.
Yeah.
I to be fair, I didn't know we had it in the bag. I wasn't sure. John Klein, jumps from the assist man to the goal scorer in the 16th minute on a feed from Sterenberg. It was, hey, John Klein getting on the score sheet. He's the Robin. This one he's the Batman.
Yeah, it's he deserves to get his goal every once in a while, doesn't he? But this was kind of a 2-on-4 up the left side. They didn't do us any favors with the camera work here.
No.
The cameraman was kind of behind the play, so we didn't get the cleanest look on how it all came together. But these two did not have numbers, and they still managed to kind of carve out the defense a little bit for this one.
Yeah, my notes weren't I forgot to add in how exactly it went in, but Klein basically tried to cross the ball. And hey, you put the ball near the net and it's good things are going to happen. It's
right.
True in hockey. It's true in almost any sport. So, Klein with a great cross and it goes in. Perel for St. Joe's scores in the 24th minute off a poor clearance on a corner kick. Chase Neese scores in the 35th minute to give the Billikens a 2-1 lead. Essentially the same damn thing that happened with Perel for St. Joe's. Corner, poor clearance, Neese pill into the net.
Yeah, that was a nice volley. It looked like it came off a St. Joe's player's head. When you say poor clearance, right off the corner itself, it was kind of went into traffic, and the header went more up than out. Mm-hmm. And by the time it came down, Neese was just waiting there and just clobbered it.
Wallace in the 71st minute for St. Joe's tightened everybody's mood. Mm-hmm. And we got overtime in this one. And big goal, Chandler Vaughn, 101st minute, assist by the off goal scorer Betcher. Moran outside the top of the box. I'll let you tell this one. And then I'll give my thoughts on it because it was just an absolute beautiful build up leading to the goal.
Morano was kind of in the point guard spot on this one and got it to Betcher, who kind of faked left and was able to get some separation from his man by taking it down to the goal line to his right, and just put a nice delivery right across the goal mouth all the way across. Vaughn was cutting in and just timed it perfectly and buried it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see how big of a role Marana played on this goal, because I thought he had kind of a tough game, if I'm being honest. Early in the game, there were a few times where he was a little too long on the ball, and allowed the defender to close down and poke the ball away or force him into a bad pass. So it was good to see Marana kind of get a little bit of redemption. Redemption being the theme of the two of the three last games, I guess, or two of the four games we've talked about so far. 18 to 14 shots. It was an even game in this one. Hey, you go on the road and you come out with a win. It's tough travels in the non-rev sports.
Yeah, it is. So, it really felt like they equalized both times that we went up, and it felt like this was going to come away as a tie. So, just really, really gutty stuff to pull that off. in overtime.
Yeah, you mentioned that it felt like it was going to be a tie, and I go back to watching an early season game. I cannot remember for the life of me who we were playing, but it was an overtime winner, and they mentioned that like usually nobody scores in college soccer in overtime. The Billikens have done a really, really good job of 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 getting that overtime goal to get that extra point.
Yeah, it's I think that they were down one in regulation in terms of shots, but they were +5 in overtime. I think it was 6-1 in shots in overtime, and they had the only shot in the second overtime, which ended it obviously. So yeah, whatever they are doing in overtime does seem to work. I guess they're just kind of going for it, playing a little more assertive, which I think you need to do in a game like this where you probably are the better team. So I like the confidence there.
Yeah, it speaks to the confidence that this team is playing with. That is exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It speaks to the feeling that they're the better team and they deserve to come away with a win. So
Yeah, for sure.
This team is on a roll, and it's exciting. They continued that roll this weekend at VCU last night. Unfortunately, VCU did not have a play-by-play man, which I tried to do my best to lampoon on Twitter as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, this was just a great game against a very a giant killer, so to speak, in VCU, who had taken down 3 or 4 ranked teams already this season.
Yeah, this when you look at the schedule, this looked like it was going to be the best conference game remaining. I don't think we have official word yet whether we're going to get that Central Arkansas game back or not. They're a team that is kind of in the just outside the top 25 range. So it's definitely a game we would like back for that strength of schedule as we're trying to, this is SLU's an at-large team at this point. Unless everything just falls apart, but they're in for right now.
They've locked it up. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so really now you want any help you can get in seeding, and losing that Central Arkansas game I think is crucial there. So that's a long way of saying that VCU is this was the best team on paper left on our schedule, and this was a commanding performance.
Yeah, I may have misspoke there about their level of wins. They did beat number 7 Wake Forest 2-0. They drew number 4 North Carolina. Both of those games were on the road, and then they beat number 24 Charlotte on the road, but dropped a game to number 19 Florida International on the road. So they're road tested, man. They have
and competitive.
Played, yes, with losses in there to Rhode Island and Virginia to kind of bring them back to earth out of the top 25.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point they were in the top 25, I believe, leading up to that Rhode Island game, and that knocked them out. This game was great. I was so happy to watch this game. Betcher in the 30th minute, his 8th of the season, assisted by, drum roll, please, John Klein.
NCAA leader in assists.
Yes, his 12th, his NCAA leading 12th assist. We'll get into more stats after we preview the Dayton game, but I mean, just a massive assists for John Klein this season. Majid Marana got his 3rd of the season in the 38th minute on an assist from Commodi. Celio Pompeu, the stud for VCU, scores in the 47th minute. This was just a cross that had eyes. Really nothing Schulte could do about it. He was playing for the redirection towards goal, and the ball just found its way into the side netting. John Klein gets his 3rd of the season in the 60th minute from that dude Isaiah Parker, and then Commodi in the 72nd minute, his 3rd of the season, assisted by Simon Betcher. Really all you can do is just heap praise on this game and this performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one, It's a road game. It's against, what looks like the second best team in the conference. Although I think now, Rhode Island also might have a claim at that. But this is an excellent win. And let me ask you this: when you go into halftime up 2-0 and then come out and almost immediately they score. What's your feeling at that point? Did that just kind of feel like a hiccup in what was otherwise a pretty great performance start to finish? Or did it feel like the tide was turning at that point?
I got to admit, I was kind of drunk. So I was feeling good still. But if I was sober, and I would be a little puckered,
Mhm.
to be honest. I mean, it's Celio Pompeo. He's their big stud. I believe someone pointed out that he was listed at number one, on the MLS draft board.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could have not got him go. It could have got him going, but it didn't. And the Billikens held firm. And we talked about corner kicks, and VCU averages 12 fouls per game. They give up a lot of corner kicks,
Mhm.
and I kind of felt like giving John Klein a free chance to toss the ball into a mass of people is playing right into the Billikens' hands. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
was
think so.
I was feeling good about going into this game.
So this sounds like a team that has given a lot of other teams problems, but that we match up actually pretty well against. Um, Fortunately.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna look really good on that resume. I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, this team is, and I have it on good authority that it's pretty much a done deal as far as an at-large is concerned, which is
Oh yeah.
a huge accomplishment coming out of the A10.
Yeah, at 9-0-3 and with a good schedule, I think that has to be I think that has to be an at large. Now, granted, and one of the reasons why I asked that question earlier is because one of the complaints we've had with this team is that they kind of let off the gas when they go up.
Yeah, you're right.
And that has led to a couple ties that probably could have or should have been wins. So 9-0-3, it could be, 10 or 11 in the win column, but minor gripes when you have an undefeated team who looks like the class of the conference.
Yeah, I think what made me feel a little bit better, besides the Michelob Ultras, was that this team was still pushing forward. They were putting pressure on the VCU defense, whereas they do, like you said, they do tend to sit back and try to defend leads. And you
Mhm.
know, they say, well, you know what they say about the prevent defense prevents winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very happy with this. Upcoming for the Billikens. First of all, Tuesday we will find out what the official ranking is. The coaches poll is released that day. Um, the last time the Billikens were ranked in the top 10 was number 6 in 2013. Last time consistently in the top 10, 2003.
Mhm.
So what do you think? Are we gonna see the Billikens in the top 10 once again?
These polls have been funny this year. I know in one of them we were at kind of that 24th or 25th spot for like the first 6 weeks before we made a jump. The other one, I think we started out a little bit higher and find ourselves at 14 in both of them now. I guess to know whether we're a top 10 team, I would have to look at what every other team has done in the past week above us. Um, so I don't know. I don't know for sure. I'm gonna have to assume a couple of them had some disappointing ties and maybe a few losses. So I'll say I'll play a conservative and say we'll be 11 in one and 12 in the other.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Um, on October 16th, the Billikens will welcome Dayton in to Herman Stadium, 5-6-2. All time against Dayton, the Billikens are 16-6-3. Last meeting was 2019 at Herman. Dayton came away with a 2-1 win. This season so far, key results for them: they tied Kansas City 1-1. They dropped a game to number 10 Kentucky at home 3-1. They lost to number 4 West Virginia at West Virginia, and then a 2-0 loss to the VCU team that the Billikens just handled soundly. Key players we're looking at Kingsford Ajayi. He's a senior out of Old Accra, Ghana, 2020 midfielder of the year in the A10. He's got 11 points this season with 4 goals and 3 assists. Forster Ajago, 4 goals, 1 assist this season. Marco Claudio is their sophomore goalkeeper. He's 1.63 goals against average with a 7.25 save percentage. He's played all 13 games for Dayton. Goals per game, Dayton's scoring 1.38 goals per game, giving up 1.69. They have averaged giving up 6 corners conceded per game. The Billikens are averaging 8 corners per game taken. So, and with the success they've had off set pieces this season, I think that bodes well, as I mentioned earlier. Outside of the general, what formation are they playing? Who's playing where? I think the stats lend well to the Billikens, especially given Dayton struggles. Dayton, like VCU, is actually, they draw heavily out of the African nations, funny enough, whereas VCU kind of just drew from everywhere, but except for the United States. Not a lot of Ohio kids on the roster, comparatively speaking, to the Billikens. This is going to be a fun one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, bottom line is they're a mid-tier, A10 team. Yes. You're playing them at home. They do have a few good players. You mentioned Ajayi, the senior. He's really good. So, nevertheless, this is a team you got to beat at home.
But we always say throughout the record books when it's the Arch Baron Cup is on the line.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
Billikens are now 8-0-3, 4-0 in the A10, as I mentioned earlier, ranked 14th in both Top Drawer Soccer and the coaches poll. Coaches poll being the official ranking. Key stats for the Billikens so far this season: outscoring opponents 3-1. Nearly 50% of all their shots are on target. With his next assist, John Klein will enter into a 6-way tie for 10th all time in a single season. Tom Trost, Pat McBride, Kevin Quigley, and Brian Haddigan.
I think it was Brett
Haddigan. He will be equal with those 4 big time names. Number 1 on the assist list for the Billikens in history is Matt McKeon with 20 assists. So there's 3 regular season games left. Klein has 12, needs to get to 20 to top that list. I really don't see it happening. Realistically, though, he could enter the rarefied air, depending on how far the Billikens go, not only in the A10 tournament, but the NCAA tournament. He could enter the rarefied air at 2nd overall or 2nd all time with 17. He would join Brian McBride and Mike Sorber. Have you ever heard of these guys? Have you heard of these guys? Have you seen these guys?
I've seen their names before in the media guide, but yeah, otherwise, no.
Oh man. Oh, speaking of Brian McBride, I got a gripe, not with Brian McBride, but with the retired jersey. And I've said this before, but St. Louis University, can we get a better setup than Brian McBride's jersey on the others, the non press box side bleachers that's usually covered by a trash can in front of it? Can we get something somewhere else? Because that grinds my gears every time I see it. Anyway, Patrick Schulte this season, he's sitting at a .077 goals against average. That would, if the season were to finish, that would tie him for 10th with Nico Shackelford. Billikens currently sit, as I mentioned before, at 9-0-3 with 3 regular seasons in the conference tournament to go. The last unbeaten season, 13-0-0, 2002. The most wins ever by a Billiken team was one of that season. But it was done twice in 91 and 2002. Remaining Dayton at George Washington and Rhode Island. Rhode Island, I think, will be the biggest test, given that they did knock off VCU already earlier in the season. And as I mentioned, the last time they were in the top 10 was 2013 at number 6, consistently in the top 10 throughout the 2003 season. Anything I missed on the men's soccer side before we head over to the women's side?
Yeah, they're leading the country in corner kicks per game. So I
Good
think
pull.
that's a pretty crucial stat there. And hey, you never know. It could be the key to victory against Dayton. So
Yes.
something to keep in mind.
Women's soccer, the 25th anniversary team, 20 players were honored. No players from 2009 to 13. Coincidentally, the year I attended SLU, which begs the question, was I distracting them with my good looks?
No, it's actually the coaching staff was telling players to stay away from SLU.
Yes,
so,
they were. Yes, they were.
Yeah. So I think that's what was going on there.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a wonderful list. Please go check it out. There's so many names, too many to talk about here. We'd be going on until 10 p.m. Recording. They drop a tough one at VCU. Gutzmer scored VCU's only goal in the 74th minute. VCU led in shots, 14-11, 5-4 on shots on goal, corners even at 6. VCU remains undefeated and first in the A10.
Yeah, it's, look, this is this team has not won this kind of game all season. A road game at a team that's as good or better, a team that wasn't supposed to be better, but has performed better this season. And it's just been that kind of year. So they're hopefully going to be on the other side as them in the bracket, depending on how things shake out. And right now you're just trying to, if you're this team, give yourselves the best seed you can in the A10 tournament, because that's your only way into the tournament. So they could be seeing VCU again.
Yep. They turned right around and did what they needed to do and rebound with a 4-0 win versus George Washington on the 3rd of October. Caroline Kelly in the 48th minute with an assist by Emily Gaby. Gaby comes back and scores a goal of her own in the 55th minute, assisted by Bree Halverson. Caroline Kelly gets her second goal of the game in the 62nd minute, assisted by Hannah Friedrich. And then Matten Summers gets her first goal of the year in the 83rd minute off an assist by Sophia Stram. Announcers have trouble with Sophia Stram's last name, given that her uncle was Hank Stram, which I find insane that they can't get that right. This was an all-around good game for the Billikens. I mean, I was, obviously I tweeted out and got some flack for it. That they went through the first 45 without scoring. And I stand by that. The George Washington's a team you got to jump on immediately. They're just not very good. But it was a rainy game. The weather came out, and so did the Billikens scoring at about the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely a game you got to win. And I don't know what was said at halftime or what the mood was or anything like that, but it's clear that the message got through because they scored 3 goals in 17 minutes after that. So credit to whatever they had to do to turn it on. It was a rainy game. It's, sometimes those games can be a low scoring slog trying to get your momentum going, but they eventually got it done. So, 19-5 in shots, 5-1 shots on goal, and 10-0 on corners. So another one on paper that they dominated, and luckily we're able to finish in this one as well.
Yeah, like I said, George Washington not very good. 1-4 in conference, and only 1 win overall on the season.
Mm-hmm.
This earlier today, they picked up a back-to-back win, 2-0 over UMass. Friedrich finally opened her account for the season in the 14th minute off an unassisted goal that was an absolute rocket, created some space for herself and just fired it in the back of the net. Goalkeeper didn't even know what hit her. Lindsay Heckel got her second of the year on a PK. just an obvious penalty that had to be called, and she stepped up and buried it. So I mean, it's a win they needed, and it's the win they got.
Yeah, UMass at this time last week was 3-0-1 in conference, and sitting just behind VCU because VCU is 6, or at the time was 4-0. Now they're 6-0 without a tie. So this is a good win, and UMass was 7-2-3 heading into this week. So this is a clear top half team, and it's just nice to take care of business against them.
Yes. Coming up for the Billikens on the 14th of October, they will be in Philadelphia at St. Joseph's. St. Joe's is 2-9-2, 2-3-0 in conference. Winless in the out of conference, outscored 25-8 on the season, and nobody on this team has scored more than 2 goals. The road is tough, as I mentioned, for non-rev sports, especially when you got to fly all the way to St. Joe's. But it's a game the Billikens need to win. It's a game they should win, and I believe they will. And then they will play George Mason back at home on 10-17. They are the Billikens are now 5-7-1, 3-2 in A10, still sitting about mid-table, but moving on up in the standings.
The 4 teams that they have left, none of them are above 500 in their overall record. A couple of them are at or above 500 in the conference. These are all 4 teams that they need to beat, and if they do that, they probably will have the number 2 spot in the conference tournament, which puts them across from VCU, which puts them in position to actually make a run. So I think they know what they need to do, and hopefully this is the point of the season where things really start clicking.
Yeah, I think I hope Frederick getting a goal and getting on the board for the season will spark something out of this team and potentially her individually going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Volleyball. They were in the midst of a 6-game winning streak. They beat Rhode Island 3-1 on October 1st. 22-20. They dropped the first set 22-25. Come back and win 25-18, 25-20, and 26-24. This is a little bit off from what normally they had experienced as far as kind of set by set scores. Usually they'll come out and win the first set and then drop 1 or 2, and if they'll come back and win the next 2 or 3 if they to win the match. Maya Taylor, 21 kills. Mattingly pitches in 12 with a .458 hitting percentage with an added 7 blocks to that total. So a really nice game for Jillian Mattingly. They played Fordham at Chaffetz Pavilion on the 2nd. So the next day they win this one in straight sets, as you should do with any Fordham team in any sport, except for maybe water polo, but because I think they're kind of good at water polo. 25-15, 25-20, 25-15. Taylor, 13 kills, now 4th all time. Not surprising. She gets about 50 passes a game to her. Hankin, 10 kills. So a nice game for Hankin's been a real bright spot from the service line. As I mentioned that SLU had 12 service aces in this game and held Fordham to a hitting percentage of .088. They come back and get another straight set win against Duquesne, 25-23, 25-13, and 25-14. Just an easy win that you expect when you play teams like Rhode Island, Fordham, and Duquesne. Now, a lot of talk on the message boards about my attitude towards Kent Miller and attitude towards this season and how I felt that this season is still a disappointment. Now, yes, the Billikens were in the midst of a 6-game winning streak. Yes, that is nice. However, as I mentioned before, when I said that people think I'm a jerk or an ass for saying that all I care about is how you perform against Dayton and what that you beat every other team soundly. Dayton is the cream of the crop this season in volleyball, as they are most other seasons. VCU has kind of fallen off, had a tough season, but Dayton is the cream of the crop. And as we found out today, there's still a gap between the Billiken talent and the Flyer talent. The Billikens drop this game 3-1 at Dayton, Ohio, 15-25. They lose the first set, come back, win the second set 25-22, and then drop the next two 21-25 and 19-25 respectively. In this one, it really was passing errors that plagued the Billikens. Service receiving, I mean, it just constantly hamstrings the setter and eventually the attack. And half the time it doesn't even get to the setter. It either ends up out of bounds or it ends up back over the net, and Dayton has an easy kill or a free ball. So, I mean, look, women's sports in the A10, your goal every year is to soundly beat all the bad teams and then beat Dayton, beat VCU at least once. They'll have another shot. They've beaten VCU once already this season, and they'll have Dayton at home. If they can come back and beat Dayton at home, I'll be optimistic going into the conference tournament that they could potentially, do something in the A10 tournament, but that remains to be seen. Pete, anything, any contradiction to me? I mean, I'm happy to be the jerk.
I'm happy to let you wear that crown. So nothing from me except, they started the conference 5-0. They're 5-1 now. There's still a window. Dayton's the better team. They're 7-0 in conference. VCU's third at 5-2. And, we play them next and have Dayton's second to last match of the season. So still a window, still a chance to kind of win the conference outright, but it's going to come down to the conference tournament anyway.
Yeah, I really don't even think that Dayton played that well in this game. That's what makes me angry. I mean, just really bad defense, really bad passing. I don't even want to get into it because I'm just going to be even meaner. But Billikens get VCU at home on the 15th. This will actually be immediately after, or an hour after, the men's basketball practice. So if you're interested in sticking around Midtown, I can't tell you that they're going to allow you in, but I would definitely look into it. If you're interested in checking out some volleyball and you're like, well, I don't want to go down just for a volleyball game, this is your opportunity to check that out.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. Field hockey. I have some takes, but I'm going to run through the games that I didn't see. I'm just going to give you the updates. With an unfortunate result, they lose to Lindenwood 3-2, a team they beat, I believe, 10-0 last time. Goals by Sacco and Tunison on the Billiken side. SLU outshot Lindenwood 23-8. As I mentioned before, it's a team they beat 10-0 in the preseason. They lose to LaSalle on October 1st, 5-2. Goals again by Tunison and Pendergast, which I learned that Pendergast's dad actually films all the games on Facebook Live and does his own commentary. Fun fact.
Wow, that's dedication.
Number 9, St. Joe's. The Billikens visited Philadelphia. They dropped the game 3-0. Could have been worse. 25-0 St. Joe's on shots. So, I mean, again, you're not going to win if you don't shoot on goal. I attended the game on October 8th. This was Friday afternoon. Number 20 UMass made their trip to Sportport out in Maryland Heights. This game was awesome. It was a lot of fun. A 2-1 loss, however. I think this coach is onto something. I think this coach has potential. I think she's a young coach, and I don't think the talent level and the recruiting is there. And that may not even be the coaching issue. That may be an institutional support issue. That may be we have to drive 45 minutes to play a game issue.
Yeah.
I can't, I need both my hands to count on the number of turnovers the Billikens had in the defensive zone, defensive third of the field, I guess we'll call it. Penalty corners given up at one point. I think UMass had 6 or 7 penalty corners in a row. And fortunately for the Billikens, they botched the majority of them. Unfortunately, they finished one of them. The Billikens had a chance to tie it, and I think everybody in attendance thought that they had. But the official, at least according to one of the parents that I spoke with, he thought that the ref should have swallowed his whistle and let the play develop. But he blew it. I don't know exactly what the reasoning was. I wish I could tell you. But the Billikens put the ball in the net almost immediately after the whistle had blown. So, and that would have tied the game super late. But they took the number 20 team in the nation to, they gave them all they can handle. And I think that's super impressive. You can get another chance to check out field hockey if you're so inclined. 10-17 versus VCU at Sportport. I believe that's a Sunday at 1:00. I want to say. Pete, you want to give a little update on the kind of sports that really don't get enough love?
Yeah, both cross country and swimming and diving are underway now. And I know these are more niche sports, especially at SLU. So we haven't covered them yet, really, but SLU ran for some reason in the Ohio Intercollegiate Open, and both the men and the women won. The reason I know about this is because my brother-in-law actually ran cross country at John Carroll, who happened to finish 4th on the men's side. And he would talk about this meet as being his favorite back when he ran there. It's mostly Ohio schools, like, small private liberal arts colleges in Ohio. So like John Carroll and Otterbein and Wittenberg and Kenyon and schools like that tend to run in this thing. But it happened that Davidson and Dayton also ran in this. And I think they along with SLU finished as the top 3 on both sides. So don't know why these 3A10 schools were competing in that, but anyway, they were. And then on the 1st of October, the men finished 10th of 16, the women 12th of 14 at the Gans Creek Classic at Mizzou. In addition to Mizzou, this one did have a lot of other, power conference and other high D1 programs there. So respectable finish there, but obviously, not the same as running in the Ohio Intercollegiate Open. The next one they've got, both sides will run at the Bradley Pink Classic, and that's at Bradley University in Peoria on the 15th. Swimming and diving, they kind of had a fun event called the Show Me Showdown, which is all the Missouri schools. It's not just D1. There's 8 schools in it. So it includes like, I want to say like William Woods and Lindenwood and Westminster, maybe a few others like that. The men finished 5th. Women finished 3rd. Mizzou won both, and Lindenwood finished 2nd in both. So that kind of gives you an idea of where swimming and diving is in the state. And then on the 22nd, at McKendree, they've got a small meet with McKendree and Truman State. So that's what swimming and diving and cross country are up to these days.
I appreciate the legwork you did on that, because there's not a chance in hell I would have done that kind of legwork.
I just got to wondering, I was like, with basketball coming up, okay, where are these other schools in their seasons? They don't get, tweeted about a lot from the official account or anything like that. I know they don't compete as frequently, and it's just a completely different ball game, but figure we should give them a little love and let them know that we see them.
Yeah. And also I got a shout out, since it's the end of my racing season and we just talked swimming, diving, got to shout out my guy, Kyle Embry, for helping me not drown in the Gulf of Mexico, teaching me all he knows. He swam at SLU. He's a Billiken swimmer. So he helped me big time over this last season. So I want to throw that shout out in there. Interesting. I think these sports are kind of interesting in that they really do. You really can just go anywhere, and you don't really have to worry about what the team is actually doing. You know,
Yeah,
you kind
that's
of go
right.
whatever coach you feel most comfortable with, and it doesn't really matter about who else is going and swimming or diving or running there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is if you listen to Chris May's podcast at all, sometimes he'll have,
He has a podcast.
he'll have he'll have usually a senior athlete from just about every sport every few weeks. And when you do hear interviews with them, they really are coming to school for school, and you're right, because they happen to develop a relationship with a coach. And it's a completely different process with recruiting and everything. It's not like they have a huge number of scholarships to play with, even at power programs. My wife's younger cousin swims at Georgia right now and is, a nationally competitive swimmer. And there, during his recruitment, there were all these conversations about how to split scholarships and what he can get at this school versus this school. It's not just you have a scholarship offer. It's a lot more complicated than that. So, they're out there in the trenches doing this because they love it and they know that this is it for them. So, all credit to the people out there running and swimming and doing this stuff.
Well, guys, Pete, thank you first of all for that information, because I think people need to know. And I mean, it's interesting. I mean, if you're out there and you competed at SLU in one of the smaller sports, we'd love to talk to you. I'm
For
sure.
sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you have some great stories that people would be interested to hear and kind of understand. Don't forget to follow us on social media if you haven't already. What are you doing? At Midtown Mad Pod. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to our podcast on the platforms. Rate if you haven't already. Give us 5 stars if that's what you feel. If you feel like we're shit, give us 1 star. I don't care. Well, actually, I do. Please don't give us 1 star. Thanks. Pete, any last words for the Billiken fans out there?
Just go out to the men's practice on Friday. And check them out. And I can't wait to talk more men's basketball. As much as I like, mixing it up on all these other sports. That is our bread and butter, and I know that's where we draw the most of our audience from, and that's where the majority of our expertise and interest lies.
You said expertise.
I mean, I know
we'll pretend
very generously, but no, please, check them out, and let's get the conversation going on this season. Can't wait.
Yep. Go Bills.
Go Bills.